27th February 2022. It's day 4 of war in Ukraine. We have a visual. Russian BTRs are moving in to the city of Kharkiv. It seems like Russia is planning to begin an assault on Kharkiv today. Late night before sunlight. On 4th day of war, we can see heavy shelling on city of Kharkiv in Ukraine. This is perhaps done by a BM-21 Grad battery. It's a multiple rocket launch system used by Russia. We can also see the level of damage done. It's not only done by a BM-21 Grad battery, perhaps. They also use TOS-1Ms. They are advanced thermobaric multiple rocket launchers.
Ох ты, ёперный банан. Ух. Там находится? Ну, газовая заправка. Да. Твою мать, блядь!
In early morning, when sunlight came, people started noticing how Russian troops are starting to advance inside the city of Kharkiv. Here you can see multiple Russian trucks packed with Russian soldiers which are escorted by Russian armored vehicles. This is a gas, followed by Russian Kamaz-class military truck. They have markings on top also, so aerial units can recognize their Russian troops. You can see Russian soldiers are outside their hatches inside these trucks, keeping an overwatch while this convoy advances through this apartment complex in the city of Kharkiv, Ukraine. The Z markings you see on these trucks and Russian military vehicles are to class them as Russian. It's a classic friend or foe differentiating markings which are also used by Allied forces and the United States and Middle East. As the troops started advance inside the city, first shots were fired in this region when the Russian forces disembarked from their vehicles and they started move in formation with escort armored vehicles inside the center of city of Kharkiv. Here you can clearly see there are 3 or 4 Russian gas vehicles escorted by Russian troops. And behind you can see there are Russian Kamaz-class military trucks and you can hear gunshots. They're firing on Ukrainian armed civilians, the local resistance and also Ukrainian forces that were stationed in the city. Here, a Ukrainian soldier along with his squad is moving forward to ambush the same convoy of Russian troops which we saw in earlier footage. There is an abandoned gas apparently. And further they started the ambush using RPG-7s and PKP machine guns. Towards left you can see the ambushed convoy, and somewhere in the right is further convoy that has detached from this section and they're trying to get back to their lost vehicles. And these Ukrainian Special Forces troops are assaulting on the further remaining convoy that is somewhere in the right, obstructed as the camera is in cover. a soldier we can see is providing ammunition of RPG-7 rockets to a soldier that is in front, firing RPGs on Russians. This is the aftermath of the ambush. Here we can see Russian gas vehicles, which are semi-armored, marked with Cs. All the ammunition weapons they had is scattered down. They will scavenge this vehicle for fuel, ammunition, weapons. And right, you can see more Ukrainian soldiers keeping a guard and overwatch, just if some more Russian troops show up to defend the lost convoy.
Кто придет на нашу Харьковскую землю? Вот ваши. Russian.
Later we received a footage from same area of Kharkiv where we saw the remaining Russian gas convoy, which we saw earlier. Half of it was ambushed by Ukrainian special forces. But here it seems the convoy and their vehicles ran out of fuel and Russian soldiers are pushing these vehicles back to cover. It is a live action how Russia lacks their strategic backbone of supply and support. Later today, Russian aircrafts entered Kharkiv airspace. They were bombing areas with high resistance, but the Ukrainian special forces were armed with man-pads, man-portable air defense system. And in the footage we can see how Ukrainian soldiers finally managed to drop at least 2 of jets using these shoulder-based surface-to-air missiles. As Russian troops ran out of fuel, their tanks were abandoned. Multiple civilians took advantage and they were just seizing these vehicles. Here is a footage of a farmer towing a Russian armored vehicle that is armed for air defense. Russians just fleed their vehicles, scattering weapons on ground. There are RPGs, ammunition for machine guns, other weapons inside, including some food which was left. More ammunition you can see. This was their MDV armored vehicle, armored personnel carrier that was heavily striked and ambushed. This armored personnel carrier that is also heavily armed with autocannon and a high caliber main gun. It's not a match to a tank, it's amphibious, it's something in between a BMP-2 APC and a basic T-72 tank. It can carry troops in back, but it's destroyed as you can see. And it has a main gun so it can defend and provide fire support to troops. It's one of the main Russian infantry fighting vehicles they're using in this fight, and this was seized by Ukrainian forces as Russian soldiers fled and abandoned this. You can see their uniforms. This is uniforms of Russian troops. They just removed it and apparently they surrendered or they ran somewhere into this alley. There is no field in rear, but still it will work and it will be part of fight for the Ukrainian side now. Courage is inside Ukrainian civilians. As we can see, public is advancing towards a fully armed and operational Russian tank that is perhaps either T-80 or T-72B3, and they're trying to stop the Russian advance. Russian President Vladimir Putin later that day also stated he would like that Russian nuclear deterrent forces and nuclear missile systems are on alert. That means, in case a situation happens, Russia seems ready to launch nukes. It also seems ready for a nuclear strike. It has placed their nuclear deterrent forces on alert.
Решение о применении ядерного оружия может быть принято только в том случае, если наша система предупреждения ракетного нападения зафиксировала не только старт ракет, но и дала точный прогноз и траектории полетов, и время падения головных частей на территорию Российской Федерации. Это называется ответ на встречный удар. То есть, если
Later in interviews, United Nations Secretary said this is a dangerous move by Russia, but Russian President Vladimir Putin, of course, blamed Europe, NATO and the West in general for their sanctions on Russia and aggression towards Russia. That's why he decided to finally put nuclear weapons on alert and deterrent forces on alert as well. Reports and footage started to emerge how Ukrainian officials and Ukrainian border guards started denying foreign citizens that were stranded in Ukraine and foreign students that were stranded in Ukraine from boarding the evacuation trains and all other evacuation buses. Over some reason, we're still unable to justify or understand. These students had their valid papers, valid documents, visa, passport in their hands, and they were tasked by their government and embassies to move to closest borders and flee from Ukraine. Our Ukrainian officials have stopped students from boarding these evacuation trains. Even till evening, heavy fighting and shelling continued throughout Ukraine in multiple cities, including Mariupol, Chernihiv and Kharkiv.
Пизда, блядь! Ёбаные суки, блядь!
Here we have a footage coming from a city called Tokmak. Russian troops also took heavy hit from Ukraine. Here we can see a Ukrainian Tunguska air defense system is being transported through Ukrainian transport trucks in the city, perhaps to increase their air defense of this region.
Офигеть. Он настолько огромный. Это колесо, одно колесо у штуки, которая его везет, просто одно колесо, как я полностью. Он лазерами стреляет или что? Это что такое? Вот по сравнению с машиной какое? Ну, блядь, КамАЗ розовый. Офигеть.
Throughout the day, fighting continued in multiple other locations inside Ukraine. Students were stranded. We got a footage from a student that was held inside a bunker in the city of Kharkiv. Russian President Vladimir Putin says the advance, the operation which he planned is still going as he planned. Objectives are being seized successfully, but the footage which we see is saying slightly otherwise.